So I was asked the question about dual power and what I call alternative infrastructure of resistance and resilience. Well, or AIR. So I created this idea of AIR, alternative infrastructure of resistance and resilience, which is supposed to be networks of communities. And I created it in some ways as to get away from dual power, though I like dual power. But at the time when I created it, dual power was mostly used by Trotskyites, by I think even some Stalinists. So it was taken over by the authoritarian communist. The term itself was just constantly used by them, even though it's originally an anarchist term. So my idea so with that, my idea of alternative infrastructure of resistance and resilience, AIR, is to create communities that can actually support themselves and actually feed themselves and support other communities, and the realization that every community is going to have a different approach or a different situation from other communities. So a community in a urban area may be dealing with brown sites, may be dealing with food deserts, may be dealing with housing issues, poverty, whereas a community that starts off in a rural section may be dealing with just restrictions and logistics. So there are going to be different needs and different wants from those communities, but they need to be working together to create a network so they can actually share things. They don't have to necessarily share material things, but share support. And that these communities should be founded on what I call the 3 F's in PH. And the 3 F's being food, fiber, fuel, that you can grow your own food, fiber, and fuel. Fuel being, could be solar, it could be hydro, it could be biodiesel. And then the final one is pharma ecology. So food, fiber, fuel, and pharma ecology, that you try to create almost a self-sufficiency so you can feed yourselves or feed others and create a system that you become conscious of the ecosystems around you. You become conscious of the flow of water. Water is a big important thing, especially as we're going deeper into the Anthropocene, into a global climate crisis. So that's what I was proposing. Again, I don't see it as really the opposite of dual power. When I created that concept, we were getting a lot of Trotskyites, a lot of authoritarian communists or authoritarian socialists, or a lot of authoritarian Marxists who, wanted basically to have a party system where they would control everything. We're in a system of continuous want, like a system of continuous poverty. Even those who are well off are in some sense in a form of poverty. And how to resist that, how to resist consumptionism. And the ultimate goal is to create what I call a bioregional cooperative commonwealth, which is a network of communities and cooperatives working together to protect, defend, replenish the social and natural commons. And that there wouldn't be just one bioregional cooperative commonwealth. It would be a world network of bioregional cooperative commonwealths, each with their own needs and wants, or needs and actions. Models of looking at alternative infrastructure resistance and resilience would be looking at the Zapatistas in Chiapas, where they are 100% involving indigenous people. They are indigenous people. They are in resistance to the Mexican federal government, as well as specifically in resistance to neoliberalism or capitalism, as they rose up in 1994, January 1st, when NAFTA was signed. Another model would be to look at democratic confederalism in Rojava, which is in struggle against what remains of Daesh. They're in struggle against Turkey, nationalism in Turkey, against Assad in Syria. And their system of empowering women is crucial. Another system to look at would be, a smaller system would be Exarchia in Athens and their struggle against the Golden Dawn, which is a Greek nationalist racist movement. And so Exarchia is a small community of anarchists who promote awakening and art and liberation. Not sure how they're doing these days. Another movement to look at would be the ZODs, the Zones to Defend in France. This was a movement against the expansion of the Notre Dame airport into farmland and ecological preserved areas. And they create networks with the farmers and the community to be in resistance against the authoritarian state. Another movement to look at would be the landless workers movement in Brazil that feeds people. Another movement to look at would be, in the past, would be the factory reclamation movement in Argentina, which rose up against the collapse of an economic structure intentionally by capitalists to basically mess up Argentina's economy until they could make profit. And what happened was the workers who had the supplies, had the education, had the training, took over the factories again and made them into worker-owned cooperatives. That's an interesting history to look at. Another movement might be, which should be looked at, is the Mondragon movement or the Mondragon cooperatives in the Basque Country, which was a resistance really against Franco, and an attempt to survive by the Basque people to create networks of worker-owned cooperatives called the Mondragon cooperatives. And they have been very successful in creating an alternative economy in which there is no poverty, or very little poverty, and very little super wealthy people. That would be a system to definitely look at. The goal is not to sell, the goal is, or make money, the goal is to create community, and to create community based on mutual aid. Oh, another one to look at would be the mutual aid movement that's going on in Puerto Rico. Because of the hurricanes that have hit Puerto Rico, the United States basically abandoned it. And then came in with American wealthy to exploit it. And so in Puerto Rico, there's been a rise of mutual aid societies to help feed and support the communities. So that would be another model to look at. All these models could be models, and this merger of these models together to create a bioregional cooperative commonwealth. And its stepping stone is actually the alternative infrastructure of resistance and resilience to create that.